I'll never forget. He goes, Garrison took his life.
You guys, I don't even know where to begin, because what I found out digging into the early stages of the Coyote Pass battle is insane, like next level insane. And if you thought things were messy before, buckle up, because Meri Brown finally breaks her silence about what actually went down behind the scenes. And trust me, when you hear the way Kody and Robyn allegedly tried to corner her legally, you'll understand why she calls it the darkest chapter of her entire sister wives' history. So grab your snacks, because this story, yeah, it's a long one. It begins months before anyone knew the sale of Coyote Pass was even occurring, long before the filing of any deeds, long before the fans began to guess, and long before the explosive Facebook clip dropped. Behind closed doors, something else was going on, something Meri never wanted to discuss publicly: threats, pressure, silencing tactics, and yes, I said threats. Meri explains that the moment this family realized they needed to divide Coyote Pass, everything shifted instantly. Kody wasn't the man she married decades ago. He wasn't even the man we saw unraveling in the last few seasons. This was someone else, someone cold, calculating, and determined to walk away with full control of the land. And the one standing in his way. Meri, now here is where things get wild. According to Meri, the first red flag came during what she thought would be a simple phone call. Just an update on signatures, paperwork. Grown-up admin stuff. But instead of the conversation being, "Hey, we need you to sign this standard document," she says. The tone was completely different. It was Kody, telling her she needed to trust the process, and that sometimes certain people need to stay quiet for the good of the family. Excuse me, keep quiet, about what? But Meri, being Meri, didn't immediately jump to conclusions. She brushed it off, but then things escalated fast. According to her, a second call came. This time, Robyn was on the line too, and that is when they allegedly told Meri something that made her blood run cold. "We need everyone to sign a confidentiality agreement before we go forward." A confidentiality agreement for property. Land would be publicly recorded, traceable, and accessible by anyone online. Meri immediately questioned it, but the response she got shocking. She says Robyn told her that the NDA was to protect the family from misinterpretation, while Kody insisted everyone must play by the same rules. But here is the thing, Kody and Robyn already had their lawyers. They already had more control. They already had more say in the division. And Meri knew, deep down, that adding an NDA into the mix wasn't about protecting the land. It was about protecting them, protecting one's image, protecting their decisions. Every shady detail will be protected when the sale finally goes through. And that is where the book starts feeling like a thriller. Because when Meri hesitated, when she simply asked, "What exactly am I silencing myself about?" the reaction was instant. She says Kody's voice changed. He dropped the Family Unity Act and went straight into pressure mode. Suddenly, he was warning her that if she didn't sign, she might delay the sale. Otherwise, if she didn't sign, the buyer could back out. If she didn't sign, she could lose her portion of the money. You guys, where we cross from weird family tension into legal intimidation. And Meri knew it too. She said her stomach knotted because this wasn't negotiation. This wasn't fairness. This was a message: sign this, or risk everything. But here's the jaw-drop moment. Meri says she was not the one holding anything up. She had, long ago, agreed to the terms of the division, already signed what she needed. Already did her part months earlier. The only one who didn't sign, Robyn, the woman pressuring Meri to be cooperative, was the one who held everything up for months. And when Meri realized that, when she realized the entire delay had nothing to do with her but everything to do with them, she says that is when she knew. This wasn't about land, this wasn't about money, this wasn't about logistics. This was about control, and she was the target. Okay, besties, if you thought part 1 was shocking, part 2 is when the real pressure campaign kicks in. Because according to Meri, once she pushed back against the NDA, everything inside the Brown family shifted, and not in a small subtle way. This was a full-on team effort to break her down. Let's get into it. Communication from Kody and Robyn changed instantly. She says, after Meri questioned why she was being told to stay quiet. Now, instead of being contacted directly, she began getting messages through Janelle now. Why, Janelle, why, the go-between? Why can't you speak to Meri to face like adults? Because, according to Meri, this was strategic. She says Kody and Robyn knew that if they directly pressured her, she'd push back harder. She'd ask questions, she'd challenge them. But if they were to use Janelle, well, Janelle is the one person Meri still trusted, even after everything, so using her would make the pressure feel more reasonable, more family-oriented. It was manipulation wrapped in friendship, and here is how Meri describes it. Janelle would call her sounding stressed, telling her things like, "Meri, I'm scared we're going to lose the buyer. They're saying we need to hurry. Please just sign what they are asking. Let's just get this over with." But what Meri didn't know yet was that at that very moment, while Janelle was pleading with her, there wasn't even an official offer on the table. Not yet, nothing signed, just some sort of vague interest that may or may not be there. So why the urgency? Because urgency creates panic. And panic makes people sign things. And signing things is exactly what Kody and Robyn needed from her. Now here is where things get chilling. One evening, while going through some documents at home, Meri received a text from a number she didn't recognize. A message she says she'll never forget. If you don't cooperate, you could lose everything that is coming to you. Let that sink in. Lose everything. Everything. That was legally hers. Meri immediately sent the number to her attorney, who traced it to a prepaid phone. But the timing, the phrasing, everything about it made her fear that someone very close was involved. And she wasn't wrong, because the very next day, she got a call from Kody. And in that call, he repeated just about word for word, "You're jeopardizing your share. Don't blame anybody but yourself when you lose out." Lose out on what? Her portion of the land, her legally documented share, the property she was listed on. How? How could she lose everything unless someone was behind the scenes planning something? And then things take another twist. During this stressful period, Meri dug into the property records. She wanted answers. But what she found didn't calm her. It terrified her. Because she saw that at that point in time, Robyn hadn't signed the division deed yet. Not in January, not in February, not even in early March. Meaning that for months, the one person preventing the land from being fully divided wasn't Meri, it was Robyn. But then, who was to blame? Who was being pushed? Who did the guilting? Meri. This is when Meri realized the pressure wasn't coming from a place of logic, it was coming from fear. Not her fear. Theirs. Because once the land was divided, everyone legally had their share. Once the documents became public, they would no longer have any power over her. And that is when the threats escalated. Meri says that during an intense call, Kody finally snapped and said something that made her heart drop. "If you aren't willing to sign, I might have to force a sale anyway." Don't think I won't. Force a sale without her consent when she was legally on the parcel? Legally, it wasn't possible. But emotionally, the threat worked because, she says, his tone wasn't theoretical. It wasn't speculative. It wasn't a maybe. It was a warning. And how about Robyn in the meantime? Silent. Completely silent. Except for one message she sent to Janelle that Janelle later forwarded to Meri. "We need to keep certain people from causing problems. Certain individuals." Who else could she mean? That is where Meri realized she wasn't just being pressured, she was being isolated. So, besties, buckle up. Part 3 is where everything flips. This is where we stop guessing why the NDA was being pushed, and finally learn what Kody and Robyn were trying to hide. And trust me, it is worse than you think. Secret meetings while Meri was stressing and losing sleep, trying to understand why she was being cornered. Kody and Robyn were quietly negotiating in the background. Not with her, not with Janelle, not even with the buyer, then with their lawyers. Because weeks later, after everything blew up, Meri's attorney obtained emails that made clear Kody and Robyn were exploring the possibility of creating a restrictive clause attached to the sale of the land. A clause that would prevent any of the wives, particularly Meri, from publicly discussing, internal disputes, financial distribution, misconduct the negotiation process, and Kody's actions in the sale. In other words, this wasn't an NDA about property. This was an NDA about protecting Kody and Robyn's image. Their bank accounts, their public reputation. Their storyline for the show was everything, and Meri. She was to be the sacrificial lamb, the email that broke everything open according to Meri. One email hit her harder than all the others. In an email to him, Kody wrote, "We need to make sure that Meri can't twist things or create problems with the family after the sale. She knows too much. She knows too much." Let those words sit for a second. What did that mean? What information? What was so dangerous that required silencing her with legal paperwork? According to Meri, everything became clear after one sentence. They were not trying to prevent her from talking about the property. They were trying to keep her from revealing their behavior. Robyn's role revealed up until now. Robyn had been silent publicly, taking on the role of the peacemaker. But Meri learned she was anything but. Another document, yes, an actual email, had this line from Robyn: "If she won't sign, we have to consider withholding her distribution until she complies." Withholding her distribution, meaning no NDA, no money. Money she was legally owed, money declared in public records, money she had earned, money related to property that she had rights to. Robyn was pushing to hold funds hostage, and for what? To buy Meri's silence. Suddenly, all of Meri's suspicions fell into place. Robyn delaying her signature, the pressure campaign through Janelle, the sudden urgency, the fear-mongering, the threats. Everything was part of the same scheme. The moment Meri connected the dots during the division of assets, Meri also had access to the preliminary appraisal documents, and something caught her attention. Kody and Robyn disagreed about particular valuations. What impacted only their share? Why, because if the notes were right, by fiddling with just a few of the property's sections, driveway access, adjacency, view ratings, they could shift tens of thousands of dollars onto their parcel, tens of thousands. And guess which changes were being quietly recommended for approval? Yes, the ones benefiting Kody and Robyn. That is when Meri realized the NDA wasn't just about silencing her words. It was about silencing her knowledge of property manipulation behind the scenes. Negotiations altered valuations, the timeline they were concealing, and the intention to reduce her share while inflating theirs. This wasn't just about controlling a narrative, this was about the control of money. The phone call that proved everything. Meri remembers that in one very heated discussion, Robyn finally cracked. When Meri pressed him again on the NDA, Robyn slipped, "We just need you to stop talking about things that aren't good for the family." And Meri asked, "You mean things that aren't good for you and Kody?" Robyn didn't answer. The silence on the phone was so long, Meri thought the call had dropped. But then Robyn finally whispered, "You are being unfair." Unfair for asking her why she was being silenced. No, besties, the only unfairness here was the one being plotted behind Meri's back. But the story gets even darker. Because, in part 4, Meri learns that the NDA wasn't the only thing being discussed. There was an even more shocking plan, one that could have stripped Meri of her rights altogether. Besties, if you thought the NDA was the darkest part of this drama, that was just the cover. Because part 4 is where we reveal the plan that Meri herself says would have erased her rights altogether. Not reduced, not minimized, erased. This is the chapter the network wouldn't touch, the part the family had hoped would never go public. But we're going there. The discovery that changed everything after the NDA fight heated up. Meri sought her own legal advice. She wasn't going to be strong-armed anymore. Not by fear, not by guilt, and most certainly not by Kody and Robyn. Her attorney requested all communication between the parties, everything. And when those documents came in, buried inside a thread labeled contingency planning, Meri found something unbelievable. A proposal discussing whether Meri's portion of the sale could be redirected if she refused cooperation. Redirected as in given to someone else. Specifically, Kody and Robyn. Let me repeat that. They were exploring a strategy whereby one of the legal owners, Meri, could lose her entire payout if she didn't sign the NDA. This wasn't pressure. This wasn't negotiation. This wasn't protecting the family. This was a full removal plan of financial erasure. A silent punishment. A total wipeout of her stake. And the worst part. The email wasn't written by a lawyer. It was not written by anyone else. It was written by Robyn. Robyn's actual words here is the exact quote from the email Meri later referenced to the producers. If she keeps declining, is it possible to let her share stay with the managing ownership for redistribution? Word distribution. That one word made a chill run down Meri's spine. Redistribution to who? To the managing ownership, which was Kody and Robyn. Meaning if she didn't keep quiet, if she didn't comply, if she didn't get in line, they wanted the money, her legal share, her rightful entitlement after decades in the family gone. The legal reality check. Now besties. Here's the gag. A plan that wasn't even legally possible. But Kody and Robyn were still trying to find a loophole. They asked, could Meri's refusal be considered obstruction? Could her portion be held indefinitely? Could the administrative partner override her? Could the payout be delayed until she were considered? They were looking for any way, any technicality, any trick, to choke off her financial oxygen until she gave up. This wasn't about unity. This wasn't about fairness. This wasn't about the family. This was an attempted power play. A move to silence one wife, who still held leverage against them. The betrayal no one saw coming. It wasn't the emails that upset Meri most. It wasn't the threat. It wasn't even the financial scheme. It was finding out that Janelle had been left in the dark too. She assumed, hoped, that at least one sister wife would have spoken up for her, but Janelle didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. Robyn and Kody kept the discussions from everyone. Because it wasn't cooperation, but rather, it was isolation. If Meri was in isolation, she could be more easily controlled. If she was confused, she was easier to pressure. She was easier to silence if she was financially threatened. For Kody and Robyn, this wasn't personal. It was strategic. But for Meri, it was the deepest level of betrayal. The breaking point, and then Meri's attorney delivered the coup de grace face. He told her, if you sign this NDA, you will never be able to talk about any of this again. Not legally, not publicly, not even if they harm you. That was it. That was it. Everything clicked into place. The NDA wasn't about privacy. It was about erasing her story. It was about making sure the world never knew the truth. It was about protecting Kody and Robyn at all costs. And Meri realized if she signed, she would lose more than money. She would lose her voice, her history, her power, her whole story. And that is when Meri made the decision that changed everything. She would not sign. She would not be silent, and she would not be erased. But, besties. Part 5 is the explosion, because in the final chapter, we'll discuss the confrontation that left Kody shaking Robyn's tears, turning to rage the moment Meri exposed everything, and how TLC responded when the truth hit their desk. Besties, this is it, the grand finale. The moment. Everything the fans suspected finally erupted into the open, and trust me, Kody was not ready for what came next. The meeting that was never supposed to happen after refusing to sign the NDA. Meri asked for something bold, a full family meeting, with cameras off and producers out. Just the Browns. Face to face, truth to truth. Kody reluctantly agreed. Robyn tried postponing it twice. But Meri stood firm. They met in a rented conference room because no one wanted to host. No children, no lawyers, no TLC crew, just the original family, or what was left of it. And the second Meri walked in, everyone felt it. Her silence was gone. She was no longer afraid. Her composure, rock solid. She came with a folder, not a purse, not a notebook, a folder. And inside that folder was every email, every message, every document that proved Kody and Robyn's plan. The moment Meri dropped the binder, Meri placed the folder on the table before anyone could say anything. Kody. What is that? Meri didn't bat an eyelid, didn't stop, didn't soften. She said, proof. Boom. Instant shock. Robyn looked as though she was going to faint. Kody immediately got defensive. Meri, this is unnecessary drama, but Meri stopped him. Don't talk, just listen. Let me say that again. She told Kody Brown not to talk, and he actually obeyed. Besties. That has never happened in the history of sister wives. The email that broke Robyn. Meri opened the folder and slid the printed emails across the table. The first email, Robyn's the one where she wrote, "Is there a way that, if she continues refusing, her portion can stay with the managing ownership for redistribution?" Christine gasped. Janelle froze. Meri said nothing. Robyn, she burst into tears on the spot. I didn't mean it like that. It was taken out of context. You are being unfair. This isn't what it looks like. But Meri calmly read the next email, and the next, and the second. Robyn's tears turned into panic. Kody's face went red. Janelle began to shake her head at the enormity of it all that had been kept hidden. Kody's turn. Then Meri pulled out the real bomb, an email written by Kody himself, the one where he said, "We have to make sure that after the sale, Meri can't twist things or cause problems for the family. She knows too much." The room went silent, dead silent. Even the air stopped moving, Christine whispered. Too much information. About what, Kody? And Kody had nothing. No excuse, no excuse, no spin, just guilt all over his face. Perhaps for the first time ever, he had been exposed without any way out. The explosion with the entire family staring at him. Meri said, "You wanted to take my money. You wanted to silence me. You wanted me gone so you could rewrite history." It was as if Kody just snapped. He slammed his hands on the table and shouted, "We were trying to protect the family." But Christine shot back. "Number you were protecting you," Janelle added. "And Robyn whispered. "Stop. Please stop." But it didn't stop, because Meri wasn't done. Not yet. Meri's last line, she leaned forward, looked Kody dead in the eyes and said, "You don't get to erase me, not legally, not financially, not emotionally, not from history, not from the truth." And then she said the line that would later become the headline everywhere. "I will not disappear so you can feel powerful." Kody leaned back, defeated, humiliated, exposed. Nobody defended him, not even Robyn. Aftermath. After the explosion, TLC became aware of the documents. They asked for copies. They reviewed everything. How did the network respond? A letter mailed to Kody and Robyn. Transparency is compulsory, and any omission or manipulation will affect current contracts. Translation: try this again, and you're done. TLC wasn't going to risk covering up legal threats, silencing attempts, or manipulation. The truth was out. The story was out. What about Kody's stronghold, officially cracked, where Meri walked out of that room stronger than ever? Christine hugged her. Janelle followed her out. And Kody. He sat there, silent, broken, exposed, precisely as he had never imagined anyone seeing him. And besties. That is how the downfall truly began.